we are talking about Char Man. Oh, no, Char Man. Sorry, wrong thing. Apologies about that. Yes, so we're talking Char Man, which is a seemingly very low budget found footage movie, which has got multiple directors who also play characters in the movie as well as wrote the movie. And it follows three filmmakers as they are trying to kind of create this kind of mockumentary based on this kind of vampire that is living in this particular kind of Californian area. They know it's all BS, they know it's like a false thing, they're just kind of making stuff up basically. However, once they start making this kind of mockumentary, so to speak, they stumble across another urban legend called the Char Man, who is this kind of, kind of boogeyman ultimately, that if you go on this bridge and you kind of say these particular words and everything, you're going to bring forth the kind of the spirit of this kind of Char Man who will kind of hunt you down and kill you and all that sort of stuff. And he's kind of, his whole thing is obviously to do with fire, you'd probably expect. So these three guys, they decide to pivot and do this documentary on the Char Man instead, and of course they start getting harassed by seemingly kind of paranormal phenomena. Now, what will happen exactly? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's discuss what I think works in this movie. I think being set around sort of California obviously clearly helps this one. Obviously, that's where most movies are kind of like sort of coming out from. I like the fact that it kind of does have a somewhat of a pivot through the movie. So you're initially looking at a kind of a movie about a vampire, and then it kind of changes to something else, which is a little bit more kind of original. And that this particular kind of legend, it sounds pretty interesting, I have to say. We get a couple of kind of like fairly good kind of jump scares kind of towards the end of the actual movie itself. I think generally speaking, on a technical level, this movie actually looks pretty good for a found footage movie. The cameras are all kind of quite clear, and there's not too much like shaky cam, and there's a little bit maybe at the end, but for the most part it's also actually kind of filmed fairly well, so you can kind of sort of get a good sense of what's going on. It's kind of, you get good audio and things like that, so it does feel like that the care has been taken to kind of present the best kind of angles and things like that as the kind of the film progresses. So the characters are kind of obnoxious, to be honest. I'm not sure if that was the intention from the filmmakers necessarily. They kind of just feel a little bit self-obsessed and vapid to a certain degree, but they relatively well acted. I won't say that they weren't not believable in their roles at the very least. So yeah, reasonable kind of acting. But that seemed like a short kind of positives, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm kind of struggling on the positives with this one. This is this movie, Char Man, is all about this kind of man that is something to do with fire. So you would expect it to have some heat, but let me tell you, it's full of hot air. Yes, nothing happens in this film. Nothing happens. This is a film about three men arguing for the vast majority of the runtime. Ooh, so much fun. It's so much fun watching a found footage movie where we have the vast majority of the running time with the characters arguing. Wow, I've never seen that before. It's not like in every found footage film. Yeah, but this one, the problem is that there's not much else that happens. I mean, you get occasionally, you get like little girls with masks kind of popping up, but I'm thinking, what's that got to do with this Char Man? But it just seems like a girl with a mask on. It doesn't really seem all that, scary, really. So yeah, the actual narrative here is very weak. There's really not much in the way of story. Now, with a found footage movie, you could arguably say this is going to be like a slice of life. you're not probably going to have like a 3-act structure like you would do in more of a traditional film. But you would at least, you know, to make an interesting kind of, I mean, you could arguably say, okay, here's a kind of backhanded compliment. You can arguably say this is probably quite sort of realistic in some ways because it's just a load of people talking. Great. It's kind of a realistic depiction of people arguing. But for a narrative thread, for a story, it's just, there's just nothing going on. I mean, I get you want to have a little bit of conflict within the group and stuff, and that's more maybe part and parcel, but it just, you know, we don't need like 50 minutes of it, basically. So that you really don't feel there's a lot of forward momentum. We get the occasional kind of like little scare, but then it just kind of goes back to the kind of the status quo. And then when we do get the kind of the finale, so to speak, I have to be honest with you, this was a little disappointing. I mean, I didn't really see what it has to do with, I say, this legend that we've been hearing about. I don't really understand what a couple of masked like little kids have got to do with anything, or there's no fire in this movie. I mean, it just seems like maybe there's something else going on, but it just whatever it is, it doesn't seem particularly interesting. And you know, if you just saw a bunch of kind of people with masks on, which are clearly sort of like kids and stuff, you would just sort of say, "What are you doing? You know, what are you doing? Get out of here." It's just there's just not much here, and that's the you know, I can't pick too many holes in a way because there's not much to pick to really pick apart because there's just so little involved in this film. I think the acting's alright, but the characters, as I've mentioned, are a little bit kind of unlikable. They just seem to be like arguing for argument's sake, you know, just to have like content to put in a movie. It's just some of the kind of their situations. I mean, this is not really story development. It's like, oh my god, did you put this toy here? No, I didn't. Oh, you did, didn't you? No, I didn't. And it's just kind of going backwards and forwards like that. It's like, oh, it really stinks around here. Well, we can't smell that. You know, we don't have smell-o-vision. So great. The most scary thing is we're meant to believe that there's a stench, but we as an audience can't experience that. So that's kind of lazy writing. Oh yeah, it's this weird stench and stuff. Oh, the taps are turning on. Brilliant. So you've got faulty taps. Just, oh my god, it's just, there's just nothing to this film. I mean, it tends to be the MO of a lot of found footage films where you have just lots of kind of hot air, basically. But most of them have at least a little bit of finale, at least a couple of kind of like neat visuals. This one doesn't. It's just kind of the visuals that we do have, I've got to be honest with you, aren't particularly kind of all that kind of interesting to look at. And it doesn't really seem to be much to do with the subject matter anyway. So yeah, this one was a bit of a miss for me. I guess on a technical level and in an acting level it was fine, but it's certainly not outstanding. And but story-wise and scale-wise, it's a big old miss for me. So it's a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.